The rain had been falling over Twin Oaks for 3 days straight. It wasn't the kind of rain that whispered gently against windows. It was the relentless, heavy kind that turned dirt roads into rivers of mud and made the whole town feel like it was drowning. Alex Carter stood at the kitchen window of their small 2-story house on Elm Street, watching the water cascade down the glass in thick rivulets. Behind him, his mother Emily Carter moved quietly through the house, her footsteps soft and careful, as if she were afraid of disturbing ghosts. It had been 2 months since his father, David Carter, died in a construction accident at the mill just outside town. 2 months since the funeral, where half of Twin Oaks had shown up, filling the pews of St. Michael's Church with their somber faces and uncomfortable condolences. 2 months since Alex's world had collapsed into a void of grief and uncertainty. Twin Oaks, Oregon, was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business. Population 4,200, nestled in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. It was a town built on logging, farming, and the quiet determination of families who'd lived there for generations. Main Street stretched for exactly 6 blocks, lined with brick storefronts that hadn't changed much since the 1960s. Harper's General Store, the Twin Oaks Diner, Martinez Auto Repair, and the Riverside Tavern, where men gathered after work to drink cheap beer and complain about the weather. Alex was 17, a junior at Twin Oaks High School, with his father's dark hair and his mother's gray eyes. He'd always been lean, but in the past 2 months he'd lost weight, his cheekbones becoming more pronounced, his shoulders carrying a tension that made him look older than his years. His hands gripped the edge of the sink as he stared out at the rain, his mind cycling through the same worries that had plagued him since his father's death. Money was tight. His father had been the primary breadwinner, and though there was some insurance money, it was quickly disappearing into mortgage payments, medical bills that insurance hadn't covered, and the daily expenses of keeping a household running. His mother worked part-time at the Twin Oaks Public Library, but her salary barely covered groceries. Alex had taken a job at Martinez Auto Repair after school, changing oil and rotating tires, but it wasn't enough. "Alex, honey, breakfast is ready," Emily called from behind him, her voice soft and strained. He turned to see her standing by the small kitchen table, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, dark circles under her eyes betraying sleepless nights. She was only 42, but grief had aged her, adding lines to her forehead and a weariness to her movements. On the table sat 2 plates of scrambled eggs and toast, simple, cheap, filling. "Thanks, Mom," Alex said, sitting down across from her. They ate in silence for a few minutes, the only sound the drumming of rain on the roof and the occasional creak of the old house settling. Emily kept glancing at him, and Alex could feel the weight of unspoken words between them. "I need to talk to you about something," she finally said, setting down her fork. Alex looked up, his stomach tightening with apprehension. "I got a call yesterday from the bank," Emily continued, her voice trembling slightly. "They're threatening foreclosure if we don't catch up on the mortgage payments. We're 3 months behind, Alex. I've been trying to figure something out, but I don't know what else to do." Alex felt a surge of anger and helplessness. "How much do we need?" $12,000 to get current," Emily said, her eyes filling with tears. "I've been looking for a full-time job, but there's nothing in this town. I thought about asking your Aunt Rebecca for help, but she's dealing with her own problems in Seattle. We'll figure it out," Alex said, though he had no idea how. "I can pick up more hours at the shop. Maybe I can talk to Mr. Martinez about a raise." Emily reached across the table and took his hand. "You shouldn't have to carry this burden, Alex. You should be focusing on school, on your future, not worrying about adult problems." "We're in this together, Mom," Alex said firmly. "Dad would have wanted me to take care of you." Before Emily could respond, there was a loud knock at the front door. Both of them froze, exchanging worried glances. It was barely 7 in the morning, and they weren't expecting anyone. Alex stood, and walked to the front door, peering through the peephole. 3 men stood on the porch, their leather jackets soaked with rain. Even through the distorted glass, Alex could see the patches on their backs, a coiled rattlesnake with the words "Rattlesnakes MC" embroidered in bold letters. His heart began to pound. "Don't open it," Emily whispered from behind him, her voice tight with fear. But before Alex could respond, one of the men pounded on the door again, harder this time. "Emily Carter, we know you're in there. Open up!" Alex recognized the voice. Mason Grady, the president of the Rattlesnakes. He was a man in his mid-40s with a thick beard, cold blue eyes, and a reputation for violence that extended far beyond Twin Oaks. The Rattlesnakes had been a presence in the area for years, running drugs, extorting local businesses, and generally terrorizing anyone who crossed them. "What do they want?" Alex hissed at his mother. Emily's face had gone pale. "Your father. He owed them money. A gambling debt. I thought it died with him. But apparently they don't see it that way." Alex felt his world tilt. "How much?" $15,000, Emily whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Alex. I should have told you sooner." Mason Grady pounded on the door again, this time accompanied by the sound of a boot kicking the wood. "You've got 10 seconds, Emily, or we're coming in." Alex's mind raced. They couldn't call the police. Sheriff Charles Hanson was notorious for turning a blind eye to the Rattlesnakes' activities, rumored to be on their payroll. They couldn't fight 3 armed bikers, and they certainly couldn't come up with $15,000. "Stay behind me," Alex said, unlocking the door and pulling it open. Mason Grady stood on the porch, water dripping from his beard, a cruel smile on his face. Behind him were 2 other rattlesnakes, Derek Lansing, a hulking man with a shaved head and prison tattoos covering his arms, and Troy Vickers, younger and wiry, with a scar running down his left cheek. "There's the man of the house," Mason said mockingly. "Where's your mommy, kid?" "What do you want?" Alex asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "You know what I want," Mason said, his smile fading. "Your old man owed us money. Now that debt falls to his widow. We're here to collect." "We don't have that kind of money," Alex said. Mason stepped forward, and Alex instinctively took a step back. "That's not my problem, kid. Your father made promises, and we expect those promises to be kept. We're reasonable men. We'll give you 2 weeks to come up with the cash. After that, we start taking payment in other ways." His eyes drifted past Alex to where Emily stood in the hallway, and the implication was clear. Alex felt rage boil up inside him. "Don't you dare!" Mason grabbed Alex by the front of his shirt and slammed him against the doorframe. "You watch your mouth, boy. We own this town, and we own you. 2 weeks. Don't make us come back." He released Alex and stepped back, nodding to his companions. The 3 of them turned and walked down the porch steps to where their motorcycles were parked on the street, their engines roaring to life moments later. Alex watched them ride away, his hands shaking with anger and fear. Emily pulled him inside and closed the door, locking it behind them. She was sobbing now, her whole body trembling. "It's going to be okay," Alex said, though he didn't believe it. "We'll figure something out." But as the sound of the motorcycles faded into the rain, Alex knew that their problems had just multiplied beyond anything he could handle alone. The next few days passed in a blur of anxiety and desperation. Alex went through the motions of school and work, but his mind was elsewhere, constantly churning through impossible scenarios. He researched the Rattlesnakes online, learning about their criminal network that extended throughout Oregon and into Washington. They were connected to the Outlaws Motorcycle Club, one of the oldest and most violent outlaw biker organizations in America. Crossing them wasn't just dangerous, it was potentially fatal. At school, Alex's best friend, Jordan Hayes, noticed his distraction. They sat together in the cafeteria during lunch, the noise of hundreds of teenagers providing a chaotic backdrop to their conversation. "You've been weird all week," Jordan said, biting into a slice of pizza. "What's going on?" Jordan was tall and athletic, the star forward on the school's basketball team, with an easy confidence that Alex had always envied. They'd been friends since elementary school, growing up together in Twin Oaks, riding bikes through the woods, fishing in Clear Creek, and getting into the kind of harmless trouble that small-town kids always seem to find. "Family stuff," Alex said evasively. "Nothing I can talk about." Jordan frowned. "Come on, man. We've been friends forever. You know, you can tell me anything." Alex wanted to confide in him, to share the crushing weight of his fear and anger, but he couldn't drag Jordan into this mess. The rattlesnakes were too dangerous, and Jordan had his own future to worry about. College scouts were already looking at him, and he had a real chance at a basketball scholarship. "I appreciate it," Alex said, "but I need to handle this on my own." Before Jordan could press further, another voice interrupted them. "Hey, Carter." Alex looked up to see Sophia Jennings standing beside their table, her dark hair falling over her shoulders, her green eyes concerned. Sophia was in his English class, quiet and thoughtful, always carrying a worn paperback novel and sitting in the back row. They'd been paired together for a project earlier in the semester, and Alex had been surprised to discover how perceptive and kind she was beneath her reserved exterior. "Hey, Sophia," Alex said. "I wanted to check on you," she said. "You seemed really out of it in class today. Mrs. Patterson asked you a question, and you didn't even hear her." "Sorry," Alex said. "Just a lot on my mind." Sophia hesitated, then said, "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm a good listener. My dad left when I was 12, and my mom's been raising me and my little brother on her own. I know what it's like to have too much weight on your shoulders." Alex felt a lump form in his throat. "Thanks, Sophia. I'll keep that in mind." She nodded and walked away, and Jordan raised his eyebrows. "She likes you, you know." "Shut up," Alex muttered, but he couldn't help the small smile that tugged at his lips despite everything. That evening, Alex was working late at Martinez Auto Repair, lying under a Ford F-150 and draining the oil, when he heard the sound of motorcycles pulling into the lot. His heart sank. He rolled out from under the truck and saw 4 bikes parked near the entrance, sleek, powerful machines with riders clad in black leather jackets bearing a different patch from the rattlesnakes. These jackets displayed a black raven in flight, wings spread, with the words "Black Ravens MC" emblazoned above it. The lead rider dismounted and removed his helmet, revealing a man in his early 50s with salt and pepper hair, a weathered face, and sharp, intelligent eyes. This was Patrick Sloan, the president of the Black Ravens, a rival motorcycle club that operated in the northern counties. Miguel Martinez, the shop owner, emerged from his office, wiping his hands on a rag. Miguel was a stocky man in his 60s with graying hair and a thick mustache, a fixture in Twin Oaks who'd run the shop for over 30 years. "Patrick," Miguel said, his tone neutral, "what brings you here?" "Need some work done on my bike," Patrick said, his voice deep and gravelly. "Heard you're the best mechanic in the county." Miguel nodded. "I can take a look. Alex, come over here." Alex approached cautiously, his eyes flicking between the bikers and Miguel. The other 3 Black Ravens stood beside their bikes, watching with casual alertness. Men who'd seen violence and weren't afraid of it. Patrick studied Alex with an appraising look. "You Miguel's boy?" "No, sir," Alex said. "I just work here." "Good kid," Miguel said. "Hard worker. Alex, help me check out Mr. Sloan's bike." As Alex and Miguel examined the motorcycle, a customized Harley-Davidson with a minor oil leak, Patrick leaned against the workbench and watched them. "You from Twin Oaks?" Patrick asked Alex. "Yes, sir," Alex replied, tightening a bolt. "Tough town," Patrick said, "especially with the rattlesnakes running wild. Mason Grady's a piece of work." Alex's hands froze for a moment. and Patrick noticed. "You got a problem with the rattlesnakes?" Patrick asked, his tone curious rather than accusatory. Alex straightened, meeting Patrick's gaze. There was something about the man, a sense of authority and fairness that was completely absent in Mason Grady. The Black Ravens had their own reputation, but unlike the rattlesnakes, they were known for a certain code of honor among bikers. They didn't prey on civilians, and they didn't tolerate cowards or bullies within their ranks. "Everyone in this town has a problem with the rattlesnakes," Alex said carefully. Patrick smiled slightly. "True enough, but you look like a kid with something specific eating at him." Miguel shot Alex a warning look, but Alex ignored it. A desperate idea was forming in his mind. Reckless, dangerous, but maybe the only chance he had. "They're threatening my mother," Alex said, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "My father owed them money from a gambling debt. He died 2 months ago, and now they're saying my mom has to pay. We don't have it, and they gave us 2 weeks. I don't know what to do." Patrick's expression hardened. "How much?" 15,000, Alex said. Patrick exchanged glances with his fellow bikers, then looked back at Alex. "And what exactly do you think I can do about it?" "I don't know," Alex admitted. "But everyone knows the Black Ravens and the rattlesnakes hate each other. I thought maybe you could help. Please. I'm begging you, I'll do anything, work for you, whatever you need. Just don't let them hurt my mother." The words hung in the air, and Alex realized how desperate he sounded, how young and powerless. Miguel looked uncomfortable, and the other Black Ravens were stone-faced. Patrick studied Alex for a long moment, then said, "Where do you live?" "Elm Street. 342 Elm Street," Alex said. "When's the deadline?" 12 days from now." Patrick nodded slowly. "I'll think about it. No promises, kid. But I'll think about it." It wasn't much, but it was more than Alex had before. As the Black Ravens mounted their bikes and rode off into the gathering darkness, Alex felt a tiny spark of hope kindle in his chest. Fragile and uncertain, but there nonetheless. Miguel put a hand on Alex's shoulder. "You're playing with fire, kid. Those biker gangs are bad news, all of them." "I know," Alex said, "but what choice do I have?" Miguel sighed. "Just be careful. And remember, sometimes the help you get comes with a price you didn't expect to pay." Alex nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead, imagining scenarios where Patrick Sloan and the Black Ravens stood between his mother and the rattlesnake's wrath. He knew it was a long shot, maybe even a foolish one, but it was the only shot he had. That night, Alex lay in bed listening to the rain against his window, unable to sleep. Down the hall, he could hear his mother crying softly in her room, and the sound tore at his heart. He thought about his father, a good man who'd worked hard his whole life, who'd loved his family fiercely, but who'd also had his demons. The gambling had been a secret, hidden from Alex until now, and he felt betrayed by the revelation even as he mourned. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Hope you're okay. Remember, you're not alone." Alex stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, "Thanks. That means a lot." He set the phone down and closed his eyes, praying for a miracle he wasn't sure would come. The following Monday morning arrived cold and grey, the rain finally tapering off into a persistent drizzle that turned Twin Oaks into a landscape of muted colors and soggy earth. Alex walked to school along Route 22, his backpack heavy with textbooks he hadn't opened in days. His mind was consumed with the ticking clock, only 11 days left before Mason Grady's deadline. At school, the normalcy of teenage life felt surreal and disconnected from the crisis consuming him. Students laughed in the hallways, complained about homework, gossiped about weekend parties. Alex moved through it all like a ghost, attending classes but absorbing nothing. In fourth period English, Mrs. Patterson assigned a group discussion on The Great Gatsby, and Alex found himself paired with Sophia Jennings again. They sat in the corner of the classroom, their desks pushed together, the book open between them. "You haven't read the chapters, have you?" Sophia said quietly, not accusatory, just observant. "No," Alex admitted. "Sorry." "It's okay," she said. "I'll cover for you." "But Alex, seriously, what's going on? You look like you haven't slept in days." Alex rubbed his eyes, exhausted. "Family problems, money problems, the kind that don't have easy answers." Sophia glanced around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned closer. "Is it the rattlesnakes?" Alex's head snapped up, startled. "How did you—" "My mom works at the county courthouse," Sophia said. "She hears things. Everyone knows the rattlesnakes have been expanding their protection rackets, going after people who owe them money. I heard your dad's name mentioned a few weeks ago." Alex felt exposed and vulnerable, but also relieved to have someone who understood. "They're threatening my mom. They want $15,000 in less than 2 weeks, and we don't have it." Sophia's eyes widened with concern. "Have you gone to the police?" "Sheriff Hanson won't do anything," Alex said bitterly. "Everyone knows he's in the rattlesnake's pocket, and even if he wasn't, what evidence do we have? It's our word against theirs. So what are you going to do?" Alex hesitated, then told her about his encounter with Patrick Sloan and the Black Ravens. Sophia listened intently, her expression growing more worried with each detail. "That's incredibly dangerous," she said when he finished. "The Black Ravens might hate the rattlesnakes, but that doesn't mean they're the good guys. They're still criminals, Alex." "I know," Alex said, "but I'm out of options. If Patrick can help, I have to take that chance." Sophia reached across and squeezed his hand. "Then let me help too. My mom has connections at the courthouse, lawyers, judges. Maybe there's a legal way to deal with this." "Sophia, I can't drag you into—" "You're not dragging me," she interrupted firmly. "I'm choosing to help. That's what friends do." Alex felt a wave of gratitude so intense it nearly brought tears to his eyes. "Thank you." The bell rang, ending the class, and they gathered their books. As they walked into the hallway, Jordan Hayes appeared beside them, his expression serious. "We need to talk," Jordan said to Alex. "Privately." They found an empty classroom, and Jordan closed the door. "I know what's going on with the rattlesnakes," he said, without preamble. Alex stared at him. "How?" "My dad owns the hardware store on Main Street," Jordan said. "Mason Grady tried to shake him down last month for protection money. My dad refused, and 2 days later, someone threw a brick through the store window with a note that said, 'Next time it's fire.' The rattlesnakes are bleeding this town dry, and everyone's too scared to do anything about it." "Why didn't you tell me?" Alex asked. "Why didn't you tell me about your situation?" Jordan shot back. "We're both trying to protect our families." "But Alex, going to the Black Ravens for help is insane. You'll just be trading one gang for another." "What else am I supposed to do?" Alex demanded, his frustration boiling over. "Watch them hurt my mom, let them take our house. I'm 17 years old, Jordan. I can't fight them on my own." Jordan's expression softened. "Then let's find another way. Together." Sophia spoke up. "My mom might be able to help. Let me talk to her tonight." Alex looked between his two friends, feeling overwhelmed by their support, but also terrified of putting them at risk. "This isn't your fight." "Yes, it is," Jordan said firmly. "The rattlesnakes are everyone's fight in this town. It's time people started standing up to them." That evening, Alex returned home to find his mother sitting at the kitchen table with their neighbor, Michael Bradshaw. Michael was a man in his late 50s, a retired Marine who lived in the house next door with his wife, Linda. He had close-cropped gray hair, a stern face, and the bearing of someone who'd seen combat. "Alex, sit down," Emily said, her voice strained. Alex sat, his stomach knotting with apprehension. "Your mother told me about the situation with the rattlesnakes," Michael said bluntly. "I want you to know that Linda and I are here to help however we can." "Mr. Bradshaw, I appreciate that, but—" "No buts," Michael interrupted. "I've lived in Twin Oaks for 15 years. and I've watched the rattlesnakes terrorize this community long enough. I served in Iraq, and I didn't risk my life fighting for freedom overseas just to come home and watch punks like Mason Grady run roughshod over decent people. What are you suggesting? Alex asked. I'm suggesting we organize, Michael said. There are good people in this town who are sick of the rattlesnakes' bullshit. We get them together, form a neighborhood watch, document everything the rattlesnakes do, and take it to the state police. Sheriff Hansen might be corrupt, but there are still law enforcement agencies that aren't. Emily shook her head. Michael, that could take months. We have 11 days. Then we buy you more time, Michael said. I'll go talk to Mason Grady myself. Tell him the debt is disputed, that we're willing to negotiate. He'll laugh in your face, Alex said. Or worse. Maybe, Michael acknowledged, but I won't let them bully your family without a fight. Alex felt a surge of respect for the older man, but also deep concern. Mr. Bradshaw, these guys are dangerous. They won't hesitate to hurt you. Michael's expression was grim. I've faced down insurgents with RPGs, son. I'm not afraid of a bunch of wannabe tough guys on motorcycles, but I'm not stupid either. I'll be careful. After Michael left, Alex and his mother sat in silence. Finally, Emily spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this, Alex. Your father's mistake shouldn't be your burden. Mom, stop, Alex said, taking her hand. We're going to get through this, together. But as he spoke the words, he wondered if he was lying to both of them. 2 days later, Alex was working at Martinez Auto Repair when Patrick Sloan returned, this time alone. He pulled his Harley into the bay and dismounted, his expression unreadable. Kid, Patrick said, we need to talk. Miguel looked nervous, but nodded at Alex, who set down his wrench and approached the biker. I've been thinking about your situation, Patrick said, and I've made a decision. Alex held his breath. The Black Ravens will help you, Patrick continued. But you need to understand something. We're not doing this out of charity. Mason Grady and the rattlesnakes have been encroaching on our territory for months. This is an opportunity to send them a message. You and your mother are going to be caught in the middle of something bigger than your debt. I understand, Alex said quickly. I don't care. Just please protect my mom. Patrick studied him for a long moment. You've got guts, kid. Stupid guts, maybe, but guts nonetheless. Here's how this is going to work. 3 days from now, the rattlesnakes are going to come to your house to collect. When they do, we'll be waiting. But after that, there's going to be war between our clubs. Twin Oaks is going to get bloody. Are you prepared for that? Alex thought about his mother's tears, about the fear in her eyes, about Mason Grady's leering threat. Yes, he said, I'm prepared. Good, Patrick said. Keep your head down and stay out of the way. And kid, if this goes south, you never talk to me. Understood? Understood, Alex agreed. Patrick mounted his bike and rode off, leaving Alex standing in the garage, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. He'd just made a deal with the devil, and there was no going back now. The next evening, Michael Bradshaw made good on his promise. He drove to the Riverside Tavern, the rattlesnake's known hangout, and walked inside. The bar was dimly lit and smoky, with classic rock playing on the jukebox and a dozen bikers scattered around tables. Conversation died when Michael entered, and all eyes turned to him. Mason Grady sat at the back of the room, a bottle of whiskey in front of him. He looked up and smiled coldly. Well, well, Mason said loudly, look who decided to pay us a visit, the old Marine from Elm Street. You lost, Bradshaw? Michael walked straight to Mason's table, ignoring the threatening stares from the other rattlesnakes. I'm here to talk about Emily Carter. Mason's smile widened. Oh, you're here to plead her case. How noble. The debt is disputed, Michael said firmly. David Carter is dead, and his widow doesn't have any legal obligation to pay his gambling debts. You're harassing her, and it needs to stop. Mason stood up slowly, and the room seemed to hold its breath. "You think you can come into my bar and tell me what to do, old man? You think your military service makes you special?" "I think you're a coward who preys on women and kids," Michael said, his voice steady. "And I think if you had any honor, you'd leave the Carters alone." For a moment it seemed like Mason might attack. His hand moved toward his belt, where a knife was sheathed. But then he laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Tell you what, Bradshaw," Mason said, "since you're so concerned, you can pay the debt, $15,000, and the Carters walk away clean. You've got 8 days. Now get the hell out of my bar before I have my boys throw you out." Michael held Mason's gaze for a few seconds longer, then turned and walked out. His heart was racing, but he kept his expression calm until he was back in his truck. He sat there for a moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, then drove back to Elm Street. When he told Emily and Alex what had happened, Emily started crying again. "Michael, you shouldn't have done that," she said. "Now they're going to come after you too." "Let them try," Michael said grimly, "but we need to be ready." "Alex, did Patrick Sloan give you a timeline?" "He said 3 days from yesterday," Alex replied. "So the day after tomorrow. He said the rattlesnakes will come to collect and the black ravens will be waiting." Michael nodded. "Then we hunker down and hope this works. Emily, I want you and Alex to stay inside that day. Lock all the doors and windows. Linda and I will be next door watching. If things go wrong, you call 911 immediately." "And if Sheriff Hanson shows up?" Alex asked. "Then we tell him the truth, that we're defending ourselves against extortion and threats," Michael said. "It's time people in this town stopped being afraid." The appointed day arrived with clear skies and unseasonably warm weather. Alex stayed home from school, and Emily took the day off from the library. They moved through the house in tense silence, checking locks and closing curtains. Around noon, Michael Bradshaw came over with a shotgun. "Just in case," he said, setting it in the corner of the living room. "I've got another one at my place. If shooting starts, you stay down and away from windows." The hours crawled by. Alex sat on the couch, his leg bouncing with nervous energy. Emily paced back and forth, wringing her hands. Around 3 in the afternoon, they heard the sound of motorcycles in the distance, growing louder. "They're coming," Alex whispered. He moved to the window and peeked through the curtains. 6 rattlesnakes were riding down Elm Street, Mason Grady in the lead, but Alex also spotted other motorcycles parked along the adjacent streets, hidden in driveways. The black ravens were already in position. The rattlesnakes pulled up in front of the Carter house and dismounted. Mason strode toward the front door, Derek Lansing and Troy Vickers flanking him, with 3 other members behind them. Mason pounded on the door. "Emily Carter, time's up. Open the door." Alex's heart hammered in his chest. His mother stood frozen in the hallway, her face pale. Then, from seemingly nowhere, the black ravens appeared. Patrick Sloan and 8 of his members emerged from behind houses and vehicles surrounding the rattlesnakes. All of them were armed, some with baseball bats, others with chains, a few with visible handguns tucked into their belts. "That's far enough, Grady," Patrick called out. Mason spun around, his hand going to his own weapon. The other rattlesnakes did the same, and suddenly Elm Street had become a powder keg. "This doesn't concern you, Sloan," Mason snarled. "Everything that happens in these counties concerns me," Patrick replied calmly. "The Carters are under our protection now. You need to leave." "Over my dead body," Mason spat. "That can be arranged," Patrick said, his voice cold. For a long, terrible moment, violence hung in the air like a drawn blade. Alex watched through the window, barely breathing. Then Mason seemed to calculate the odds. 6 rattlesnakes against 9 black ravens, all of them ready to fight. "This isn't over," Mason said, backing toward his motorcycle, "not by a long shot." "It is for the Carters," Patrick said. "You come near them again, and we'll finish what we started today." Mason and his crew mounted their bikes and roared off down the street. The Black Ravens watched them go, then Patrick turned and looked directly at the Carter house. He gave a slight nod, then he and his members dispersed as quickly as they'd appeared. Inside the house, Alex and Emily stood in stunned silence. Michael Bradshaw came through the back door, having watched everything from his yard. "Well," Michael said, "I guess that worked, for now." "What do you mean, for now?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. "I mean, Mason Grady isn't the type to let an insult like that stand," Michael said. "Patrick humiliated him in front of his crew. There's going to be retaliation, and soon. This town is about to become a war zone." Alex felt the weight of what he'd set in motion crashing down on him. He'd saved his mother from immediate danger, but at what cost? How many people would get hurt in the violence that was sure to follow? As if reading his thoughts, Michael put a hand on his shoulder. "You did what you had to do, son. Sometimes there are no good choices, only less bad ones." But as night fell over Twin Oaks, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just traded one nightmare for another. The next morning, Twin Oaks woke to news that sent shockwaves through the community. During the night, the Riverside Tavern had burned to the ground. No one was hurt, but the building was a total loss. Sheriff Charles Hanson stood in front of the smoking ruins, talking to reporters from the regional news station, claiming it was likely an electrical fire. But everyone in town knew the truth. The Black Ravens had struck first. Alex watched the news coverage on his phone during breakfast, his stomach churning with guilt and apprehension. His mother sat across from him, her coffee untouched, dark circles under her eyes. "This is because of us," Emily said quietly. "People could have died in that fire." "The bar was empty, Mum," Alex said, though the words felt hollow. "Patrick made sure of that." "This time," Emily replied. "But what about next time? What happens when Mason Grady retaliates?" Alex didn't have an answer. At school, the burning of the Riverside Tavern was all anyone could talk about. Rumors flew through the hallways. Some claimed it was gang warfare, others said it was insurance fraud. A few whispered about the involvement of the Black Ravens. Jordan and Sophia found Alex at his locker between second and third period. "Did you see the news?" Jordan asked in a low voice. "Yeah," Alex said, slamming his locker shut harder than necessary. "This is spiraling out of control," Sophia said, her expression worried. "My mum said the state police are sending investigators. If they dig into why the Black Ravens are in Twin Oaks, your name is going to come up." "Let it," Alex said bitterly. "At least my mum's safe for now." "For now?" Jordan echoed. "But Mason Grady isn't going to take this lying down. My dad's already talking about closing the hardware store until things settle down. People are scared." Before Alex could respond, there was a commotion down the hallway. A group of students had gathered around the main entrance, and Alex could hear raised voices. The three of them pushed through the crowd to see what was happening. Mason Grady stood just inside the school doors, flanked by Derek Lansing and Troy Vickers. He was talking to Principal Howard Bennett, a nervous-looking man in his 50s who was clearly out of his depth. "I'm just here to have a word with one of your students," Mason was saying, his voice deceptively pleasant. "Alex Carter. Is he here today?" Alex felt his blood run cold. Jordan grabbed his arm. "We need to get you out of here." But it was too late. Mason's eyes swept the crowd and locked onto Alex. His smile was predatory. "There he is," Mason said, pointing. "The kid who thinks he's tough enough to play with the big boys." Principal Bennett stepped forward. "Mr. Grady, you can't harass students on school property. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Mason ignored him, walking straight toward Alex. Students scrambled out of his way. Derek and Troy followed, their expressions menacing. "You've caused me a lot of trouble, kid," Mason said when he reached Alex. "Cost me my bar, cost me respect in front of my crew. I want you to know that I haven't forgotten about you or your mother." "Leave him alone," Jordan said, stepping between them. Mason looked at Jordan with amusement. "And who are you, the hero friend?" "I'm someone who's tired of you terrorizing this town," Jordan shot back. For a moment, Alex thought Mason was going to hit Jordan, but then a new voice cut through the tension. "That's enough." Everyone turned to see Officer Amy Keller standing in the doorway. She was a young cop, maybe 28, with blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun and alert blue eyes. She'd grown up in Twin Oaks and joined the county sheriff's department after college, one of the few officers who hadn't been corrupted by the rattlesnake's influence. "Mason, you need to leave," Amy said firmly, her hand resting on her service weapon. "Now!" Mason's smile faded. "This is a private conversation, officer." "Not on school property, it's not," Amy replied. "You've got 10 seconds to walk out of here, or I'm arresting you for trespassing and harassment of a minor." For a tense moment, it seemed like Mason might refuse. But then he laughed, a harsh sound, and backed toward the door. "See you around, Carter," he said over his shoulder. "Tell your mommy I said hello." He and his companions left, and the crowd of students slowly dispersed, whispering excitedly. Amy approached Alex, her expression serious. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," Alex said, though his hands were shaking. "Thanks for that." "We need to talk," Amy said. "Not here. Meet me after school at Harper's General Store. 4 o'clock. Don't tell anyone." Before Alex could respond, she turned and walked away, leaving him with more questions than answers. At 4 o'clock, Alex walked into Harper's General Store, a mom-and-pop shop that had been serving Twin Oaks for over 60 years. The elderly owner, Margaret Harper, greeted him with a warm smile and directed him to the back room where Amy Keller was waiting. Amy sat at a small table, surrounded by shelves of inventory. She gestured for Alex to sit across from her. "I'm going to be straight with you," Amy said without preamble. "You're in way over your head, and you're about to drag a lot of innocent people down with you." "I didn't have a choice," Alex protested. "The rattlesnakes were going to hurt my mom." "I understand that," Amy said, her voice softening slightly. "And I'm not blaming you for trying to protect your family, but going to the Black Ravens was a mistake. Patrick Sloan is using you as an excuse to start a war with Mason Grady. This isn't about helping you anymore, it's about territory and power." "So what am I supposed to do?" Alex asked. "Tell Patrick to back off? He's the only reason my mom is still safe." Amy sighed. "I've been building a case against the rattlesnakes for 2 years. Extortion, drug trafficking, assault. But Sheriff Hansen keeps shutting me down, burying evidence, intimidating witnesses. If this gang war escalates, it's going to destroy any chance I have of bringing them to justice through legal means." "Then what do you suggest?" Alex asked. "Help me," Amy said. "Tell me everything you know about the rattlesnake's operations, times, dates, threats, witnesses. I've got contacts with the state police and the FBI. If we can build a strong enough case, we can take down both the rattlesnakes and the Black Ravens without turning Twin Oaks into a battlefield." Alex wanted to believe her, but he was exhausted and skeptical. "How long will that take?" "Weeks, maybe months," Amy admitted. "I don't have weeks or months," Alex said. "Mason could come after my mom any day now." "Not if Patrick Sloan keeps his word about protecting her," Amy countered. "Look, I know it's not a perfect solution, but it's better than what's about to happen. The rattlesnakes are already planning their retaliation for the bar burning. People are going to die, Alex. Is that what you want?" "Of course not," Alex said, anger flaring. "But don't act like I had some great menu of options here. I did what I had to do to keep my mother alive." Amy's expression softened. "I know. And for what it's worth, I think you're brave. Stupid, but brave. Just promise me you'll think about what I said, and if you hear anything about the rattlesnake's plans, you'll let me know." "I promise," Alex said, though he wasn't sure he meant it. That evening, Alex returned home to find his mother entertaining an unexpected visitor. Cara Donnelly sat in their living room, a woman in her late 30s with red hair and a warm, kind face. Alex recognized her from around town. She owned a small bookstore on Main Street and was known for her charity work and community involvement. "Alex, this is Kara," Emily said. "She came by to offer us some help." Kara stood and shook Alex's hand. "I heard about what's been happening with your family. I wanted you to know that there are people in this town who care and want to support you." "That's very kind," Alex said cautiously, "but I'm not sure what you can do." "More than you might think," Kara replied. "I've been organizing a coalition of local business owners and residents who are tired of the rattlesnake's reign of terror. We're planning to hold a town meeting next week to discuss collective action, legal action, community watches, pressure on the county to remove Sheriff Hanson from office." "That sounds dangerous," Alex said. "It is," Kara acknowledged, "but so is doing nothing. The rattlesnakes thrive on fear and isolation. If we come together as a community, we're stronger than they are." Emily looked hopeful for the first time in days. "Kara's offered to let me and you stay at her place for a while until things settle down. She has a big house with extra rooms." "I appreciate the offer," Alex said, "but leaving our house won't solve the problem. Mason knows where I go to school, where I work. He'll find us." "Not if enough people are watching out for you," Kara said. "Alex, you're not alone in this fight. Let people help you." Her words echoed Sophia's from days earlier, and Alex felt something crack inside him, a wall he'd built up out of fear and pride. He nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "We'll come stay with you." "Thank you." Kara smiled. "Good. Pack some things tonight. I'll pick you both up in the morning." After she left, Emily hugged Alex tightly. "We're going to get through this," she whispered. "I can feel it." Alex wished he shared her optimism, but all he could feel was the weight of the storm gathering on the horizon. The storm broke 2 days later. Alex was at Kara Donnelly's house, a spacious 2-story home on Maple Street, when he heard the explosion. It was loud enough to rattle the windows, followed by the wail of sirens. He ran to the front door and looked out to see smoke rising from somewhere near downtown. His phone rang. It was Jordan. "Alex, turn on the news," Jordan shouted. "Someone just bombed the Black Ravens clubhouse." Alex ran to the living room, where Kara and his mother were already watching. The local news showed aerial footage of a building engulfed in flames, firefighters desperately trying to contain the blaze. The reporter's voice was tense. "This is the scene in northern Twin Oaks County, where an explosion has destroyed the clubhouse of the Black Ravens Motorcycle Club. Authorities believe it was a deliberate attack, possibly in retaliation for the recent burning of the Riverside Tavern. At least 3 people are confirmed injured, and there are fears of additional casualties. Law enforcement is urging residents to stay indoors as tensions between rival biker gangs escalate." Emily covered her mouth with her hand, tears streaming down her face. "Oh my God, this is because of us." Alex felt numb. He'd started this chain of events, and now people were hurt, maybe dead. His phone buzzed with texts from Sophia, from classmates, from Miguel Martinez. Everyone wanted to know if he was okay, if he'd heard what happened. Then Patrick Sloan called. Alex answered, his hand shaking. "Hello? Kid, it's Patrick. Where are you right now?" "I'm at a friend's house, Maple Street." "Good. Stay there and keep your head down. Mason just escalated this beyond anything I expected. He's declared open war, and Twin Oaks is about to become a goddamn battlefield. My guys and I are going to handle the rattlesnakes, but I need you to promise me something." "What?" Alex asked. "Don't try to be a hero," Patrick said. "You did your part by coming to us. Now let us finish this." "Finish it how?" Alex demanded. "More bombings? More violence?" "However necessary," Patrick said grimly. "Mason crossed a line today. 2 of my brothers are in the hospital, and one of them might not make it. This ends when the rattlesnakes are gone from these counties. That's the price of the protection you asked for." The line went dead. Alex stood there, phone in hand. while Kara and his mother watched him with frightened eyes. "What did he say?" Emily asked. "He said it's war," Alex replied quietly. And outside, as sirens continued to wail and smoke darkened the sky, Twin Oaks braced itself for the violence to come. Over the next 3 days, Twin Oaks descended into chaos. The rattlesnakes and black ravens clashed in a series of escalating confrontations that left the town reeling. A Black Ravens member was shot outside a gas station. 2 rattlesnakes were beaten unconscious in a parking lot. Store windows were smashed, cars were vandalized, and residents locked themselves inside their homes after dark, afraid to venture out. Sheriff Hansen held a press conference, claiming the situation was under control, but no one believed him. State police arrived to assist, setting up checkpoints and increasing patrols, but they were spread too thin to make a real difference. The FBI opened an investigation into organized crime activity in the region, but their work moved slowly while violence raged in real time. Alex stayed at Kara Donnelly's house, feeling like a prisoner in protective custody. His mother barely ate or slept, consumed by guilt over the part they'd played in the town's unraveling. Kara did her best to keep their spirits up, cooking meals and assuring them that the community's coalition was making progress in organizing a response, but her words felt hollow against the backdrop of sirens and fear. On the 4th night, Michael Bradshaw came to visit. He looked grim, his face lined with exhaustion. "We need to talk about what's next," Michael said, sitting down in Kara's living room. "What do you mean?" Alex asked. "I mean, this can't go on much longer," Michael replied. "The state police are pressuring both gangs to stand down, and there's talk of bringing in the National Guard if things get worse. But before that happens, there's going to be a final confrontation. Mason and Patrick both know it. The question is, where and when?" "How do you know this?" Emily asked. "Because I've been talking to people on both sides," Michael said. "I've still got contacts from my military days who work in intelligence. They've been monitoring communications. Mason is planning something big, a strike against the Black Ravens that he thinks will end this war in his favor." "When?" Kara asked. "Tomorrow night," Michael said. "He's calling in reinforcements from outlaws chapters in Washington and California. He'll have upwards of 30 armed bikers. Patrick knows it's coming, but he's outnumbered and outgunned." Alex felt his chest tighten. "So what are we supposed to do?" "Help even the odds," Michael said. "I've been organizing a group of veterans and concerned citizens, people who know how to handle themselves in a fight, and who are sick of watching this town tear itself apart. We're going to stand with the Black Ravens tomorrow night." "Are you insane?" Emily exclaimed. "You'll get yourselves killed." "Maybe," Michael acknowledged. "But if we don't act, the rattlesnakes win. They'll take control of Twin Oaks completely, and everyone who stood against them will pay the price. That includes you, Emily, and you, Alex." Alex looked at his mother, saw the fear and anguish in her eyes, and made a decision. "I'm going with you," he said. "Absolutely not," Emily said immediately. "Mom, this started because I asked Patrick for help," Alex argued. "I can't just hide while other people fight my battles." "You're 17 years old," Emily cried. "You're a child. I stopped being a child the day Dad died, and you told me we might lose the house." Alex shot back, his voice breaking. "I've been carrying this family on my shoulders for months. Don't tell me I'm too young to see it through." Michael held up a hand. "Alex, I understand how you feel, but your mother's right. This is going to be dangerous, and you're not trained for combat." "Then train me," Alex said desperately. "You've got until tomorrow night. Teach me how to protect myself, how to help. I can't sit on the sidelines anymore." Michael and Kara exchanged glances. Finally, Michael sighed. "If you're going to do this, you're going to do it smart," he said. "No heroics, no stupid risks. You stay with me the whole time, and if I tell you to run, you run. Understood?" "Understood," Alex agreed. Emily started to protest again, but Kara put a hand on her shoulder. "Let him go, Emily. He needs to do this, not just for the town, but for himself. Emily looked at her son, really looked at him, and seemed to see someone different from the boy she'd been trying to protect. She nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. "Just come back to me," she whispered. "I will," Alex promised. The next day passed in a fog of preparation. Michael took Alex to his garage and showed him how to handle a baseball bat, how to protect his vital areas in a fight, how to stay aware of his surroundings. Jordan and Sophia both called, worried after hearing rumors that something big was about to happen. Alex told them to stay home and keep their families safe. Officer Amy Keller showed up at Kara's house around noon, her expression furious. "I heard about Michael Bradshaw's plan," she said without preamble. "It's reckless and illegal. You're all going to end up dead or in prison." "So arrest us," Michael said calmly. "But you and I both know the state police aren't going to stop what's coming tonight. We are." "By doing what? Joining a gang war?" Amy demanded. "By defending our community," Michael replied. "Mason Grady has been terrorizing Twin Oaks for years, and the law has done nothing. If we don't stand up now, we never will." Amy looked like she wanted to argue further, but something in Michael's expression stopped her. She sighed heavily. "If you're determined to do this, at least let me help," she said. "I'll coordinate with state police, make sure they're ready to move in and clean up afterwards, and I'll do my best to minimize the legal fallout for everyone involved." "Thank you," Michael said. Amy turned to Alex. "You don't have to do this, you know. No one would blame you for staying here where it's safe." "Yes, they would," Alex said quietly. "I'd blame myself." Amy nodded sadly. "Then be careful, and try to remember that you're fighting for your community's future, not for revenge." As the sun set over Twin Oaks, approximately 20 men and 3 women gathered in an empty warehouse on the outskirts of town. They were a diverse group, veterans like Michael Bradshaw, business owners like Sophia's mother, younger residents like Jordan Hayes, who'd insisted on coming despite Alex's protests. All of them were armed with non-lethal weapons, bats, pipes, pepper spray, and all of them wore expressions of grim determination. Patrick Sloan arrived with 15 black ravens, looking surprised by the turnout. "I didn't expect so many civilians," he said to Michael. "We're not civilians tonight," Michael replied. "We're defenders. This is our town, and we're taking it back." Patrick nodded slowly. "All right, here's what we know. Mason is planning to hit our backup clubhouse on Route 14. He thinks we've got our entire crew there. He's wrong. We moved everyone out this afternoon. When the rattlesnakes show up, they're going to find us waiting, plus all of you." "What if they have guns?" someone asked nervously. "Some of them will," Patrick acknowledged, "but they're not going to start shooting if they're outnumbered. Mason's brutal, but he's not stupid. He knows killing civilians will bring federal heat he can't handle. Our goal is to overwhelm them with numbers, make them retreat, and then let law enforcement round them up." "And if they don't retreat?" Jordan asked. Patrick's expression was hard. "Then we do what's necessary." They moved out in a convoy of vehicles, driving through the darkness to Route 14. The backup clubhouse was a large metal building that had once been a distribution center. They parked their cars out of sight and took up positions inside and around the building, waiting. Alex crouched behind a stack of crates with Michael, his heart pounding so loud he was sure everyone could hear it. His hands gripped a baseball bat, slick with sweat. Around him, he could see the shadowy figures of others, townspeople he'd known his whole life, now transformed into warriors. They didn't have to wait long. At exactly 9 o'clock, the roar of motorcycles filled the night. Headlights swept across the building as what looked like 40 rattlesnakes and their outlaw allies pulled into the lot. Mason Grady was in the lead, and when he dismounted, Alex could see the assault rifle slung across his back. "This is it," Michael whispered. "Stay close to me." Mason and his crew approached the building cautiously. When they were about 20 feet from the entrance, Patrick Sloan stepped out, flanked by black ravens. Behind them, emerging from the shadows, came the coalition of Twin Oaks residents. Mason froze, his eyes widening as he took in the numbers. "What the hell is this?" "It's over, Grady," Patrick called out. "You're done in Twin Oaks. Leave now, or we'll make you leave." Mason's face twisted with rage. "You think a bunch of townies and weekend warriors scare me? I've got 30 armed bikers behind me. And we've got 50 people who are done being afraid of you," Michael Bradshaw shouted, stepping forward. "Plus state police waiting 3 minutes away. You make one wrong move, and this ends with all of you in federal prison." Mason's eyes darted around, assessing the situation. His hand moved toward his rifle, and the tension became suffocating. Then Alex did something he hadn't planned. He stepped out from behind the crates, bat in hand, and walked forward until he was standing between Patrick and Michael. "This started because of me," Alex called out, his voice shaking but clear. "Because you threatened my mother over a debt that died with my father. You gave me no choice but to ask for help, and now we're all here because you couldn't let it go. So if you want someone to blame, blame me. But leave this town alone." Mason stared at him, recognition flickering across his face. For a moment, no one moved. Then Mason laughed, a bitter, defeated sound. "You've got balls, kid," he said, "but you've also got no idea what you've started. This doesn't end here." "Yes, it does," a new voice said. Officer Amy Keller emerged from the darkness, flanked by a dozen state police officers in tactical gear. Their weapons were drawn, pointed at the rattlesnakes. "Mason Grady, you and your associates are under arrest for extortion, assault, arson, and conspiracy to commit murder," Amy announced. "Drop your weapons and get on the ground. Now." For a few seconds, that felt like hours. Mason seemed to consider fighting, but even he could see the futility. Outnumbered, surrounded, and facing overwhelming force, he slowly unslung his rifle and set it on the ground. Around him, the other rattlesnakes did the same. As state police moved in to make arrests, Alex felt his legs go weak. Michael caught him by the shoulder, steadying him. "You did good, son," Michael said quietly. "Real good." Patrick Sloan approached, his expression unreadable. "That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen. Maybe both." "It's over?" Alex asked, hardly daring to believe it. "For tonight," Patrick said. "But kid, you need to understand something. The rattlesnakes have connections that go way beyond Twin Oaks. Mason might be in custody, but his brothers will come looking for revenge eventually." "Let them come," Michael said firmly. "This town knows how to stand together now. We won't back down." Patrick smiled slightly. Maybe there's hope for this place after all. He extended his hand to Alex. "You're all right, kid. If you ever need anything, you let me know." Alex shook his hand, feeling the calloused strength in Patrick's grip. "Thank you for everything." As the Black Ravens mounted their bikes and rode off into the night, and as the state police loaded handcuffed rattlesnakes into transport vehicles, Alex stood in the parking lot, surrounded by his neighbors. Jordan came over and clapped him on the back. Sophia appeared with her mother, both of them smiling with relief. Cara Donnelly was crying happy tears. And in the distance, Alex saw his own mother running toward him, Emily Carter, who'd been waiting with Amy Keller. She threw her arms around him and held on like she'd never let go. "It's over, Mom," Alex whispered. "It's really over." 3 weeks later, Twin Oaks was beginning to heal. Sheriff Charles Hanson had been arrested on corruption charges after the FBI discovered evidence of his collusion with the rattlesnakes. Amy Keller was appointed interim sheriff, and the town council was already discussing making the position permanent. Mason Grady and 17 other rattlesnakes were in federal custody awaiting trial, facing charges that would likely put them away for decades. The burned Riverside Tavern lot had been purchased by a coalition of local business owners who planned to turn it into a community center. The Black Ravens had pulled back from Twin Oaks, honoring an agreement with Amy Keller that they'd limit their activities in the county in exchange for the state police not pursuing charges against them for the bar burning. Alex Carter sat on the porch of his house on Elm Street, watching the autumn leaves drift down from the oak tree in their front yard. It was a Saturday afternoon, unseasonably warm, and for the first time in months, he felt something approaching peace. His mother came outside with 2 glasses of lemonade, handing him one before sitting down in the chair beside him. "How are you feeling?" Emily asked. "Tired," Alex admitted. "But good. Like maybe things are going to be okay." Emily smiled, and Alex was relieved to see that the haunted look had finally left her eyes. The insurance settlement from his father's death had come through, along with donations from the community that had helped them catch up on the mortgage. Emily had been offered a full-time position at the library with better pay, and Alex had received several job offers from local businesses who wanted to support him after what he'd been through. "Kara called," Emily said. "The town meeting is scheduled for next Thursday. They want you to speak." Alex grimaced. "I'm not good at public speaking." "You don't have to be good at it," Emily said gently. "You just have to be honest. Tell people what you learned, what this experience meant to you." Alex thought about it, about everything that had happened since that rainy morning when the rattlesnakes first came to their door. He'd made mistakes. Reaching out to the Black Ravens had set off a chain of violence that had nearly destroyed the town. But he'd also discovered strengths he never knew he had and witnessed the power of a community coming together against injustice. "I'll do it," he said. The front door opened and Michael Bradshaw stepped out, carrying a toolbox. He'd been helping repair damage to the Carter house from when the rattlesnakes had kicked in the door weeks earlier. "All fixed," Michael announced. "That door's solid as a rock now." "Thank you, Michael," Emily said warmly. "For everything." Michael waved off her gratitude. "That's what neighbors do. Besides, Linda and I have been talking. We think Twin Oaks has a real chance now to become the kind of town we always hoped it could be. Safe, close-knit, looking out for each other. What you and Alex went through, what we all went through, it reminded people that we're stronger together." A car pulled up to the curb, and Alex recognized Sophia Jennings in the driver's seat. She was giving him a ride to Martinez Auto Repair, where he'd picked up some extra shifts. Jordan Hayes sat in the passenger seat, waving enthusiastically. "That's my ride," Alex said, standing up. "I'll be home by 6. Emily hugged him tightly. "Be careful." "Always," Alex promised. As he jogged down to the car, he felt lighter than he had in months. He climbed into the back seat, and Sophia pulled away from the curb. "How's it feel to be the town hero?" Jordan asked, grinning. "I'm not a hero," Alex said, uncomfortable with the label. "I just did what I had to do." "That's literally what heroes do," Sophia pointed out, glancing at him in the rearview mirror. "You stood up when everyone else was too scared. You asked for help when you needed it, and you were willing to fight alongside people to protect your community. And you looked Mason Grady in the eye and didn't back down," Jordan added. "That was incredible." Alex felt his cheeks flush. "I was terrified the entire time." "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared," Sophia said. "It means you do the right thing even when you are scared." They drove through downtown Twin Oaks, past storefronts that were slowly recovering from the violence of recent weeks. People walked the sidewalks again, no longer hurrying with their heads down. There was a sense of cautious optimism in the air, a feeling that maybe the worst was behind them. At Martinez Auto Repair, Miguel greeted Alex with a broad smile and a firm handshake. "There's my favorite employee," Miguel said. "I've got 3 oil changes and a brake job waiting for you." As Alex changed into his work coveralls, Miguel pulled him aside. "I wanted to tell you something," Miguel said, his tone serious. "What you did, standing up to those gangs, that took courage. But more than that, it took heart. You could have run, could have abandoned your mother, could have given up. Instead, you fought. That's the kind of character this town needs more of. Thank you, Mr. Martinez, Alex said, genuinely moved. And I wanted you to know, Miguel continued, when you graduate next year, if you want to go to college, I'll write you a recommendation, and if you want to stay and work here full-time, I'll make you assistant manager and teach you everything I know about running this business. Alex felt tears prick his eyes. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it, Miguel replied, clapping him on the shoulder. You've got a bright future ahead of you, kid. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. That evening, after work, Alex met up with Sophia and Jordan at the Twin Oaks Diner, a classic small-town restaurant with red vinyl booths and a jukebox that still played records from the 1970s. They ordered burgers and milkshakes, and for a while they just talked about normal teenage things, upcoming tests, weekend plans, which colleges they were thinking about applying to. But eventually, the conversation turned more serious. My dad's talking about reopening the hardware store next week, Jordan said. He says he's not going to let fear control his life anymore. The rattlesnakes took something from this town. They made us all feel helpless. Getting that feeling back, that sense of control over our own community, that's worth celebrating. My mom says the same thing, Sophia added. She's been working with Cara Donnelly and the other coalition members on establishing a real community watch program. Not vigilantes, but organized neighbors looking out for each other and reporting suspicious activity to Amy Keller's office. It's weird, Alex said thoughtfully. Something terrible happened. My dad dying, the debt, the gang war. But somehow it brought out the best in people. Michael Bradshaw, Patrick Sloan, Amy Keller, all the people who showed up that night. Even you guys sticking by me when things got dangerous. That's what friends do, Jordan said simply. Sophia reached across the table and squeezed Alex's hand. You taught this town something important. You taught us that we don't have to accept injustice, that even when things seem impossible, there are always people willing to help if you're brave enough to ask. Alex thought about Patrick Sloan's words on that first night. You've got guts, kid. Stupid guts maybe, but guts nonetheless. He'd been terrified every step of the way, making decisions without knowing if they were right, just trying to protect the person he loved most. And somehow, impossibly, it had worked out. I was thinking, Alex said, about what I want to say at the town meeting. I think I want to talk about community, about how we're all connected, and how when one person suffers, we all have a responsibility to help. The rattlesnakes thrived because people were isolated and afraid. They fell apart when we came together. That's perfect, Sophia said, smiling. As they finished their meal and prepared to leave, Alex looked around the diner at the other patrons, families enjoying dinner together, elderly couples sharing dessert, teenagers laughing over sodas. This was what he'd been fighting for, not revenge, not victory, but the simple ability for good people to live their lives without fear. The town meeting took place the following Thursday in the high school auditorium. Over 300 people showed up, filling the seats and lining the walls. Cara Donnelly served as moderator, standing at the podium with a microphone. She spoke first, outlining the coalition's plans for ongoing community safety initiatives, mental health resources for those traumatized by the recent violence, and economic development programs to help businesses recover. Then she invited several speakers, including Michael Bradshaw, Officer Amy Keller, and finally, Alex Carter. Alex walked up to the podium on shaking legs, looking out at the sea of faces. He saw his mother in the front row, tears already streaming down her face. He saw Jordan and Sophia sitting together, giving him encouraging smiles. He saw Miguel Martinez, Patrick Sloan standing in the back, and dozens of others who'd played roles in the recent events. He cleared his throat and began to speak. My name is Alex Carter, and 3 months ago, my father died. It left my mom and me with debts we couldn't pay and threats we couldn't fight alone. I was 17 years old, scared and desperate. I made choices that I'm not sure were right, choices that led to violence and put people in danger. But I also learned something important." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I learned that no one has to face their problems alone. I learned that there are people in this world, good people, who will stand up for strangers when it's the right thing to do. Michael Bradshaw could have ignored my mother's situation. Patrick Sloan could have turned me away. Officer Keller could have focused on her own career instead of building a case against corruption. All of you could have stayed home that night instead of risking yourselves to confront the rattlesnakes." His voice grew stronger. "But you didn't. You came together as a community and said enough. You decided that Twin Oaks deserved better than to live in fear. And because of that, we won. Not just against one gang, but against the idea that ordinary people can't make a difference." He looked directly at his mother. "My mum once told me that I shouldn't have to carry adult burdens at my age. She was right, no kid should. But sometimes life doesn't give us choices about what burdens we carry. It only gives us choices about how we carry them. Do we carry them alone, crushed under the weight? Or do we reach out, ask for help, and discover that there are people willing to share the load?" The auditorium was completely silent now, everyone hanging on his words. Twin Oaks is more than just a town. It's a family, and families protect each other. They stand together against threats, they help each other through hard times, and they celebrate victories together. What we did, what all of us did, that's who we really are. Not the scared, isolated people the rattlesnakes tried to make us. We're the people who showed up when it mattered most." He took a deep breath. "So thank you. Thank you to everyone who helped my family. Thank you to everyone who risked themselves for neighbors they barely knew. Thank you for reminding me that even in the darkest times, there's always hope, and there's always community." As he stepped away from the podium, the auditorium erupted in applause. People stood, clapping and cheering, and Alex felt overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. His mother rushed up and hugged him, and then he was surrounded by well-wishers, classmates, teachers, business owners, all of them wanting to shake his hand or pat his back. Later, as the crowd dispersed and people filed out into the cool autumn night, Patrick Sloan approached Alex one last time. "Hell of a speech, kid," Patrick said. "You've got a gift for words." "Thank you," Alex said. "And thank you for keeping your promise. For protecting my mom." Patrick nodded. "I won't lie. Part of it was about territory and sending a message to the rattlesnakes, but part of it was also about you. You reminded me why we started the Black Ravens in the first place, before it became about business and power. We were supposed to be a brotherhood that looked out for people who couldn't look out for themselves. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that. You helped me remember." "What will you do now?" Alex asked. "Keep riding," Patrick said with a slight smile. "But maybe a little differently, maybe with a little more honor." He extended his hand. "You ever need anything, Alex Carter, you know where to find me." They shook hands, and then Patrick walked out into the night, leaving Alex standing in the emptying auditorium with a sense of completion. 2 months later, as winter settled over Twin Oaks, Alex sat in his room doing homework when his phone buzzed with a news alert. The trial of Mason Grady and the rattlesnakes had concluded. Guilty verdicts on all major charges, with sentences ranging from 15 to 30 years in federal prison. Alex stared at the screen for a long moment, then set the phone down. He didn't feel triumphant or vengeful, he just felt tired and maybe a little sad. Mason Grady had been a monster, but he'd also been a human being who'd made terrible choices. Now he'd spend the rest of his life paying for those choices. There was a knock on his door, and his mother entered. "Did you see the news?" Emily asked. "Yeah," Alex said. Emily sat down on the edge of his bed. "How do you feel?" "I don't know," Alex admitted. "Relieved, I guess, and grateful that it's finally over. But also, I keep thinking about what Michael said." about how violence and revenge just create more violence. The rattlesnakes hurt people, so we fought back, and people got hurt on both sides. I know we didn't have a choice, but I can't help wondering if there was another way. Maybe there was, Emily said gently, or maybe there wasn't. We'll never know for sure. But what I do know is that you acted out of love. Love for your family, love for your community. That matters, Alex. Your intentions matter. I hope so, Alex said. Emily stood and kissed the top of his head. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's a new day, and you've got your whole future ahead of you. After she left, Alex lay in bed thinking about the future. He'd been accepted to Oregon State University with a partial scholarship, planning to study business management. Miguel had promised him a summer job before college, and Sophia had been accepted to the same school, which meant they'd be able to continue their growing friendship, or maybe something more. Twin Oaks had changed. The town council had implemented new policies for transparency and accountability in law enforcement. Community programs had flourished, bringing neighbors together in ways they hadn't been in years. Crime rates had dropped significantly, and businesses were thriving again. But more than the practical changes, there was an intangible shift in the town's spirit. People made eye contact when they passed on the street. They checked in on their neighbors. They attended town meetings and volunteered for community initiatives. The fear that had paralyzed Twin Oaks for so long had been replaced by a quiet determination to build something better. Alex thought about his father, David Carter, whose gambling debt had set all of this in motion. He thought about the mistakes his father had made, but also about the good man he'd been in so many other ways. People were complicated, Alex had learned. They could be loving and flawed, courageous and afraid, selfless and selfish, often all at the same time. He thought about the lessons he'd learned through the ordeal, that asking for help wasn't weakness, but wisdom. That community was stronger than isolation. That ordinary people could accomplish extraordinary things when they stood together. That courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. As sleep finally claimed him, Alex Carter, son, student, mechanic, and reluctant hero, dreamed of a future where Twin Oaks continued to heal, where his mother smiled more than she cried, where he and his friends built lives worth living. The desperate plea of a frightened boy had sparked a revolution in a small Oregon town. The merciless retaliation had come not just from bikers seeking revenge, but from an entire community saying, "Enough." And in the end, that had made all the difference.